So one of the smartest men I met during my military career was our naval surgeon, and he was attentive to the needs of my Marines. But the first time I met him, I hate to say this, but I thought he was a friggin' idiot. So the unit had formed up, we were having an officers meeting, and everyone was introducing themselves. As soon as he started speaking, me and my fellow lieutenants were shocked. Every other word out of his mouth was a crutch word. It was like this, like that. In a span of 2 minutes, he used the word like probably 50 times.
They not like us. They not like us.
Gents, when it comes to first impressions, tiny details can make a huge difference. So what are these tiny details with a disproportional impact? Well, gentlemen, that's the subject of today's video. Next up, you want to avoid the limp fish, also known as the dead fish handshake. Now, views on the handshake have changed a lot over the last few years. I personally view a fist bump as 100% appropriate in most situations. And in a casual situation, if you're a hugger, not really for me, but all the more power to you. But in most situations, for us guys, you want to have a solid handshake when you greet another man. Now, as a guy with smaller hands, the number one rule for me giving a great handshake is to remember to give a solid handshake. It seems like those moments when I'm not thinking about it, when I turn my hand down or something like that, and another man has a much larger hand, all of a sudden I'm getting crushed. And by the way, a quick recovery if you ever give a bad handshake and notice it and say, hey, let me do that over and have a little bit of fun with it. Another quick tip is when you're going in for that handshake, make sure to thrust the skin between the forefinger and the thumb, known as the thinner space, into the other person's thinner space. Now, gents, let's keep it appropriate here. We're just talking about a handshake. The point being is by doing this, especially if you've got a smaller hand, you're going to be able to get the best grip possible on the other person's hand as well. Now, as a style channel, we want to mention some of the clothing mistakes you want to avoid that have a disproportional impact on your image. Those include not polishing and shining your shoes. It's a small detail, it just takes a few minutes and people notice when you don't do it. Wearing wrinkled clothing. Come on, gents, take a few minutes to iron the shirt, to steam your jacket, to press your trousers. Your shirt coming untucked, here is a simple solution. We call this the military tuck. As you can see from the infographic here, you're simply going to use your thumbs. You're going to pull the shirt back on the sides and then tuck it into the shirt. And let's not forget your socks. The issue here, you are having to bend over and pull up your socks every couple minutes because they're sagging down to your ankles. Now, you may not think it's a big deal, but if every minute you're having to bend over and adjust your clothing, gents, it's not a great look. It gives the impression you're constantly fidgeting with your clothing. And that's why, gents, I'm proud to introduce you to today's sponsor, Straight Up Socks. So the story behind this company, the founder of Straight Up Socks, is a guy like you and me that just got tired of his socks always sagging. Well, after years of frustration, not being able to find anything on the market that solved his problem, in typical entrepreneurial fashion, he went out there and created his own solution. And now when you go over to their website, what you're going to find are great looking socks at a fair price that solve the problem of your socks falling throughout the day. You can buy these socks individually, you can buy them in 5-packs, you can buy them in 3-packs. And all their socks come with these anti-sag silicone strips that I don't even notice when I'm wearing because these socks are incredibly comfortable. And most importantly, they keep your socks up comfortably all day. And because these socks come in a wide variety of colors, patterns, basically any type of sock that you need, they've got you covered over at Straight Up Socks. And their fabric is solid. We're talking 70% Pima cotton, 25% polyester, and 5% spandex for that bit of stretch that you need. I also appreciate the construction. You've got a reinforced heel and a reinforced toe. And for those of you guys looking for an athletic sock, Straight Up Socks has you covered. Ergonomically contoured for a precise fit, these socks are differentiated by left and right foot designs to better match the natural shape of your toes. And zoned cushioning on the bottom offers cloud-like comfort. Mesh vents and advanced hydrophilic fibers work together to wick away moisture, keeping your feet cool and dry during workouts. And they've also got free shipping in the US on orders over $25. And with a 30-day money-back guarantee, gents, you have no risk in trying these socks out. So gents, check them out. Use that link in the description of today's video to get the best deal on the web. Seriously, this deal is not going to be around forever. Go check them out. Awesome company, proud to support them. Now, this next mistake is getting a lot of guys, especially nowadays as we're spending more and more time on our computers, on our phones, especially when we're walking around. Gents, I'm talking about nerd neck. I'm talking about your posture. I'm talking about you looking down on your phone and developing that habit of making yourself smaller. Poor posture affects your silhouette. You probably know this, but what you don't know is from a distance, people can instantly pick up on your confidence levels. Because yes, the way that you hold your body actually does affect the way that you feel about yourself. So this one seems small and it happens day by day. But guys, you want to be doing exercise to build those back muscles, to be able to get those shoulders back. In fact, getting back to clothing, one of the reasons I talk about guys throwing on a sports jacket, any jacket, what's it force you to do? To roll your shoulders back, push that chest out, and that alone can make you feel more confident. Now, this next one is specifically targeted to you Canadians out there. You know, you guys have a lot of issues up there. Now, we love you as Americans, but you guys over apologize. You know what I'm talking about. Us Americans, we make a mistake. We just keep going on like nothing happened. And that in itself is an issue, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. Here's the deal. If you're doing that, people don't think that you are a nice, considerate guy. What they think is that you are a pushover. Now, let me be clear. I'm not saying that you shouldn't ever apologize. If you make a big mistake, it's important that you own up to it. But if you find yourself apologizing for everything, this is where it's an issue. Now, on the flip side of that last point, refusing to admit that you are wrong is another mistake a lot of guys make, and it just makes them look arrogant. It makes guys come off as full of themselves, unapproachable, and really, who wants to be around a person that makes mistakes but never admits and actually tries to put the blame on others? Which is our next mistake, speaking negatively about others. Now, you can say something negative to a person, I think face to face. If you have an issue with them, I'm all about being direct in the right situation, not usually in front of an audience. No, you want to have this conversation in private. But if you find yourself talking about somebody when they're not present with somebody else, that's gossip, and you want to nip that in the bud and stop it. In addition, excessive complaining. Now, what's excessive? Because we use words like this that don't give specific numbers. This really depends on the situation, those you're around. But my personal rule of thumb is to try to do this very, very rarely. Yes, there are certain situations in which it is bad and you probably need to speak to somebody about it, or maybe you want it to be known that, hey, I put up with a lot of stuff. I'm not going to put up with this, and this is why. But if it's becoming a habit, this is becoming part of your reputation, and you don't want to be known as a negative Nancy. Now, this next mistake is very much cultural dependent. In fact, I noticed it whenever I was getting my MBA at the University of Texas. We had a number of students from Japan, from China, from India, and their eye contact skills were what we would consider to be in the West very poor. And sadly, a lot of people made misjudgments about them, thinking that they were either really shy or that they didn't know what was going on. When in truth, in their culture, making eye contact is something that you do very sparingly. But in the West, in the United States, Canada, over in the UK, Australia, 50% of the time, so when you're talking with somebody, you want to be making eye contact. Now, for me, I find when I'm breaking eye contact, I'm often looking to the sides. I'm, in a sense, thinking, maybe nodding my head. And there are exceptions to this rule. If you're making eye contact with somebody, maybe you're giving instructions, you want to show them that you are taking a position of authority, or you're just talking with them and you want to convey confidence, you can go for a higher percentage of eye contact. But be careful, because that can be on borderline aggressive in some people's minds. If you find yourself ever unsure about this, a quick hack here is just to simply mirror the other person's eye contact. Now, what about modern mistakes tied to the smartphones? So the thing is, most of us are addicted to our phones. In fact, they've even looked at sleeping teenagers, and these guys are like reaching for their phone hundreds of times a night while they're sleeping. Yeah, don't worry, you're probably not too much better. In fact, they found the average person is reaching for their phone almost 100 times a night. And yes, I know that may sound crazy, but think about how many times a day you reach into your pocket just simply to see if somebody sent you a text. My point here, gents, is don't let the phone get in the way of you having a great conversation. Because every time you reach to touch it, every time you pull it out when you're having a conversation, you are showing that you are leaving the conversation. Yes, you may be present, but mentally, you're not there. I know a simple tactic that I employ. That is when I'm around people and I don't want to be checking my phone, I turn it off. Because it only takes about 30 to 45 seconds to power back up. But that small action prevents me from just reaching and grabbing it when I got nothing to do. And instead, I talk and engage with other people. Now, this other mistake is one I fall into a lot as somebody that goes to conferences, meets a lot of people. I have to admit, remembering names is tough for me. Because let's face it, what do names mean? They're arbitrary in how they're given. And knowing that, I find the best way to overcome that is through taking their name and associating it with something. And when you're speaking to them, immediately use their name. And if at any point you forget their name, swallowing your pride and asking for the name again or asking how it's spelled so that you can add them to your contact list.
My cock's mole.
Especially if you do want to stay in touch with this person, then go ahead and get their information, put it right there in your phone, or hand your phone to them and have them do it. But by doing that, you got a visual reminder. When you say it out loud, it's another way that we remember things. And while not a perfect system, it's going to help you remember more names than you probably would without it. Now, gents, if you're enjoying this video, you want more about etiquette, manners, guys, I got you covered right here. Check it out. Solid video. Modern manners every man needs to know. Yeah, I got you covered. Boom, right there. Oh, yeah. Click it. Come on. Go, right there.